Taron was one of my favorite roller coasters that I rode while I was in Europe. This is an Intamin Blitz coaster at Phantasialand in Germany. And man, what a crazy ride this is. I mean, first impressions, the attention to detail with this thing is amazing. The coaster is the main feature in this entire themed area called Klugheim. And so the entire coaster is winding through this like medieval village with tons of rock work and theming. I am convinced this is the most themed roller coaster in the world. And honestly, I can't think of a coaster that is more well themed than this one. Because what Taron does is extraordinary. It has an action-packed ride while still having a lot of theming. When you think about roller coasters, it's often one or the other. You might have a lot of theming, but the ride isn't very extreme. It's not really a thrill ride. Or you have a thrill ride, but maybe there isn't that much theming. So Taron proves that you can have both. The entire ride stays relatively low to the ground. Phantasialand can't build super high, so they actually built underground. They built lots of trenches. So if you think about it, the entire area where you're walking around is like level 2, because the coaster will wind over and under you. And this ride is just mesmerizing to watch. If you're standing in Klugheim, you can't figure out where the coaster is, where it's going next, where it just came from. And to me, that is amazing. This coaster really is a work of art. But that being said, in my opinion, the ride is not perfect. So in this review, I'm going to be talking about what I love about it and how I think that Taron could be perfect. So getting to the basics, the ride is kind of broken up into two parts. You have the first half where you have it launch you into lots of twisties and turns. That's pretty much all this ride is. There isn't a lot of airtime. The ride really just focuses on lots of bank turns and whatnot. And then the second half is after you hit that second launch, it speeds you up and you go through the rest of the course. And so if I'm kind of rating the coaster by those two halves, because it is a really long ride, so that's kind of how I'm breaking it up here. The first half, I was kind of hoping that the launch was a bit more intense. To me, that entire first half was fun, but the ride wasn't as intense as I would have liked, because as you get towards the end of the first half, as it's making its way to the second launch, you can feel the ride slowing down. So I think that first half would have benefited from being a little bit faster. But I think the second half makes up for that, because the second half to me is just as fast as it should be. It is as intense as I would have liked, although it really just annoys me. The biggest annoyance with this ride is there's this one trim on an airtime hill towards the end of the ride. It just really kills the momentum. I was like, are you kidding me? Because it was going with great speed and I was expecting like a great finale where it just quickly wishes into the brake run, but instead you hit the trim and then you kind of slowly hit the brake run from there. So that was a disappointment. That trim was honestly my least favorite part of the ride. I mean, there isn't any bad parts, but man, I wish that trim wasn't there, because you don't even get airtime on those hills because of that. I mean, I know that the ride isn't about airtime, but still, it would have been nice. Taron really focuses on those snappy transitions. In my opinion, the two best transitions, there's one in the first half and then one in the second half, where it really is kind of like Intimidator 305 style, where it just really whips you from one direction to the other. Talking about the trains for a bit, the ride is very comfortable. Intamin uses a great style lap bar and seating arrangement. I don't really have any complaints with the vehicle or anything. Another thing to note, the ride does have a single rider line, which I think is pretty cool. Definitely can come in handy, especially if this ride is getting a really long line. And it's just really a spectacle to watch. The ride is very photogenic. And because of how the ride is incorporated into the theming, there are lots of near misses. The ride goes through so many tunnels, narrowly misses some buildings, flies through some buildings, and it really adds to the ride experience. Again, it's that illusion that you're going much faster than you actually are. There's another great moment on this ride I love. It's after you hit that second launch, because first of all, when you're hitting that second launch, it's crazy just how much you speed up and you're like, whoa, we're going really fast. And then you curve around this hill where there's this waterfall, and if you're sitting on one side, the waterfall will actually spray you a little bit, which was a total surprise to me. I didn't know about that. And so I'm just riding and then I get hit with water and I'm like, whoa. So that was a great moment to me. So I'd say best moments for this ride, again, those two transitions I mentioned earlier. That second launch is definitely a highlight. And as dumb as it sounds, I just love watching this thing go around. It is such a spectacle. It really is amazing. So for its final score, I'm going to give Taron a 9 out of 10. To me, what would have made it a 10 out of 10 was make that first launch just a little bit faster so that you get that first part of the ride just a little bit more intense. And that way you don't really lose any speed before you hit that second launch. And then the trim on that one airtime hill towards the end, that just it annoys me so much. So, I mean, really, if you modified it to where you add and take away those things that I talked about, I really do think that you'd have a perfect ride. But those are just my thoughts on Taron at Phantasialand. Let me know what you think of this ride. You can post your thoughts down in the comments below. And of course, stay tuned for more European coaster reviews here at Coaster Studios.